Out the new Bob 106.3.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that every single morning celebrates the people who are making coastal Mississippi such a special place to live, work, and play. We have a couple of great guests today, but I wanted to share a personal thing with you that happened over the last couple of days. My dear cousin, Mary Mathews Moore, who lives in Aniana, Alabama, her husband, Tony, died of COVID. And the Mathews clan up in the Birmingham area, my father's family, has always been very special to me and my wife, Ann, and our kids and my extended family. And Tony was such an amazing man. And, you know, it's true that when you go to someone's funeral, if they've made their mark, you're going to learn things that you probably didn't know about them. And in his case, I learned that he was a hell of a baseball coach to a bunch of kids over a lot of years, that he was a friend to so many people, very active in his church. He was a deacon in his church and just was very generous. He was in a traveling quartet, you know, a good old quartet that sang some amazing music, church music, Southern Baptist church music, just an amazing man. And I learned so much about him. And one of the things the thought that came to mind is that I'm Catholic, and I have, you know, I go to church every Sunday and I try to live a strong faith and whatever. But when you hear someone who lives the faith in the way that Tony did, it makes you feel a little inferior, because you hear the example that they left. And I wish I could talk to Tony. I guess I can, in a way, you know, in this sort of guardian angel way, to say that he inspired me with his life. And during his eulogy, his friend who did his eulogy referred to this poem called The Dash. And it's a poem by Linda Ellis. And I want to share it with you now, because I got to learn a lot more about Tony's dash, the way he touched people. But I think I heard this many years ago, but I've forgotten about it, and it's very powerful. And so let me share it with you now. It's a dash. It's a poem by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted the first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what matters most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth. Now and only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much they own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this song and this long and hard. Are the things you'd like to change? Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. To be less quick to anger or show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remember that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you lived your dash? What a special poem that is, and what a special man Tony Moore was. And, you know, a funeral is a sad event. It's a sad event. In Tony's case, an incredible man that touched so many people had to die of COVID. It's just what a terrible disease. But anyway, he inspired a lot of people, and I think brought the family together in amazing ways. And I learned some things I didn't know, and he will continue to be an inspiration to me. And God bless his family, and you know, and his legacy. So now let's move on. I'm so thrilled today to have a longtime friend, someone who's been on the show numerous times, George Freeland, who's the executive director of the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation. They have done incredible work there. We're going to talk about what the latest is economically, job growth, et cetera. But before we go any further, let me just say good morning to you, George. How are you?
Good morning, Ricky. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me on.
So, I've shared this point, The Dash, and about us leaving our mark. And I think a lot about Coast Vue and the work that I'm trying to do with Coast Vue to use people like you and others to inspire people to want to come back and want to go into the community and find their way to contribute. And I guess the phrase I would use now is to impact your dash. You guys are working hard over there to do that too. But what observations? Here we are, nearing Thanksgiving season, and it is an opportunity to be thankful. But what comes to mind as you think about the dash?
Well, Ricky, let me just a couple of things. If I'm on the show or I'm listening to the show, and I think this is your intent, I know that personally you make me think. That the themes, the content, and the exchanges, they always compel me to think and reflect in a number of different ways. And man, you got me again this morning as you're sharing the story of your own family's loss. Since you and I last spoke, unfortunately, I attended Mr. Melton Harris's funeral. Melton passed away a couple of months ago. Melton was a longtime supervisor and board member on the foundation and friend of mine. And I miss him. I miss him every day. I miss him greatly. The community misses him. But as I'm listening to your story, I'm reflecting on that moment that I was at Mr. Harris's service, and I thought to myself, what is it that made Mr. Harris so special? And this is what I came up with in that moment. Personally, anytime I was in the room with him, anytime that I was in a conversation or an exchange, Melton made me a better person. He didn't know he was doing it, but he made me a better person. More often than not, I didn't know he was doing it. But every time I left Melton, I felt more confident in my own potential to be better and to influence others in a positive way. So there are a great many similarities to our experiences on that topic.
Yeah, it is. Inspiration comes from so many places. It really does. And in a moment of reflection, when you're really thinking about, life is short. Life really is short. And, I think to some extent, my wife, Ann, made the point on the way back from Birmingham that COVID seemed to speed up the clock because, so many people we know have died or been challenged by that disease. And, of course, Tony's death just kind of brings it into clear focus, gives you a chance to come back together with family and friends and remember that, you're only as good as your last performance at the end of the day. Then you got to get up tomorrow morning and do it again. And are you giving it everything you've got? I think about this show. I mean, what do I want to do with this show? What kind of inspiration do I want this show to be? And certainly I share some of my own stories along the way. I mean, obviously the funeral I went to and sharing that this morning, but the opportunity to talk to so many inspiring people who are giving back to community. And hopefully, my hope is that young people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a young person. It could be somebody 70 years old who just now had this brainstorm that I want to make my mark, and they're going to go find their way to give back to the community and be one of those 1,000 points of light. But I'm really honored and I'm humbled to have an opportunity to do Coast Vue and to be able to share so many incredible lessons. And I tell you, George, I say this at least once a week. What I know is that the older we get, the more we better learn how much we don't know. So, the journey of self-discovery and learning never stops. I mean, I cite your friend Jerry St. Pé as a terrific example of that. I mean, what an inspiration that man is. But I constantly am changing sort of my point of view. I'm constantly evolving as a person inside and out based on the conversations I have with people. And I find that to be a gift. I mean, it's a gift to be able to do this show. It's a gift to be able to circle back with you and reconnect with you and people on your board and others in ways that I never expected to. Someone said to me the other day, said, you know what, Ricky, people are going to forget you were the publisher at the Sun Herald. All they're going to remember now is Coast Vue and the work that you do through Coast Vue. I don't know about that. I don't even know if it's going to have that big of an impact, but I do appreciate that people are learning from the show and being inspired from the show, and have the opportunity to hear people like you who are so dedicated to the community and working so hard every day with an incredible board to make your mark. And that's got to make a difference. I just believe it's got to make a difference.
Well, like Tony or like Mr. Harris, I think the program, the format, and the effort and the entire context of what you're doing is making us better. And I think it's making us better as a community. And if it's personal or if it's professional, we have to always be about both reflecting but proactively preparing for the next challenge and the next opportunity, right? And in my world, we have to, the economic development world, we have to constantly keep those things in proper context. Looking back, where have we been? How can we get better?
So when we come back, I want to remind people what the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation is. I want to talk about how you guys have done a great job in Jackson County of aligning your legislative delegation and local officials and the foundation efforts around economic goals. It's a terrific story. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with George Freeland, the executive director of the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation.
It's 2021 and J. Allen Toyota still has a lifetime warranty on all new Toyotas. They all come with Toyota Care. We've got a great rental department. We've got great used cars. We've got a parts and service department ready to help you. So when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
Thousands of Bulldog fans have subscribed to the Thunder and Lightning podcast. Have you? On each episode, Brian Haydad and Joel Coleman give you an inside look at your Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Thunder and Lightning podcast is free and available on demand at supertalk.fm and on your smartphone. Just search for Thunder and Lightning on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thunder and Lightning from SuperTalk Mississippi, covering the Bulldogs like no one else. SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. By the way, if you enjoyed that poem, I stuttered a few times during it, but if you enjoyed that poem, The Dash, I'll put a link to it at the Coast Vue, Ricky Mathews Coast Vue Facebook page, and you can go there and see it and read it and reflect about it. But anyway, we're having a conversation with George Freeland, Executive Director of the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation, just a terrific organization that has done so much work. They're always thinking about the future. You know, they've got things that are working today, but as we've talked about before, George, a lot of the stuff that you're going to be focused on is strategic, and it may not pay dividends for many, many years into the future. The work that you guys do to keep your legislative delegation aligned, to keep state leaders aligned, to keep local elected officials and just leadership aligned is critical, isn't it? I mean, it's part of the job of the Economic Development Foundation.
No question about it, Ricky. The reality is that the effective economic development equation is a long one, and man, it's complicated. But a key variable in that equation is aligning all public and private sector interest in a community, so that we understand the challenges, we understand the opportunities, and we all experience that shared success in a way that's very, very disciplined. It has to look over that horizon, which could be 5, 10, 15 years out. And I think that's part of what has set this organization, this community apart, is the ability to maintain that discipline over time. I want to mention to you, Ricky, and again, the things that have kind of transpired since our last conversation, to the complexity of that equation. A number of months ago, I was contacted by leadership at the Mississippi Economic Council, specifically Scott Waller. And he said, look, we see the data, we see the information, we see the announcements. He said, there's something unique, there's something special going on in Jackson County, Mississippi, and we want to get our minds around that formula. So the Mississippi Economic Council commissioned the Godwin Group. Philip Shirley, you've known for years, has been the CEO of the Godwin Group, and they dispatched Philip Shirley to come listen to us, sit in, watch us, observe, and take in over a period of time how we undertake our economic development business in this community. And what came out of that was Philip and MEC actually publishing this article, and the title is Jackson County Flourishing in its Economic Development Ecosystem. And it creates from a third party, unbiased observation, this thesis as to what that formula is. It's somewhat lengthy and the topics are all relevant, but the preface to this I want to read to you. It says, the amazing success and banner growth we are observing in Jackson County, Mississippi, takes a totally different approach. It demonstrates next generation thinking of how we create the environment in which communities prosper from industrial growth by fostering cooperation across sectors, then utilizing a broad spectrum of talent, creativity, and emphasis on building strong, livable communities. It's something we all need to study and understand better. I encourage your listeners and all of the Coast Vue followers to read this article, and you can find it on all of our platforms. And again, from a third-party, unbiased point of view, does a good job of dealing with and focusing on each one of the variables that go into what is a very complicated equation.
Yeah, I think it really is a special story, and I probably could have written it just based on the conversations we've had, the conversations that I've had with Paige Roberts. There's just so many incredible examples of work that's happening there that not only embraces the reality that industrial development is still part of the equation for sure, but there's an emerging new economy that speaks to, as you just pointed out, livable communities, the work that's going on in downtown Pascagoula, the mixed use stuff, the historic downtown districts, all the stuff that's happening. You would have never thought, actually, that downtown Pascagoula would be in play as raising the bar on quality of life such that people would choose to live there that could live anywhere in the United States. It's really an amazing story of connecting sort of the ongoing industrial development stuff that got to continue to happen and embrace sort of where the new economy is headed simultaneously. There's no rest for the weary in that effort, is there?
No, there's not. And we like to describe that as economic development of a higher calling. okay? And that higher calling integrates all facets and all interests within the community to the mixed use development ongoing in downtown Pascagoula, to diversifying our economic and industrial base. Ricky, there's not a project we work, there's not a project we support, incentivize, or develop where there's not a mind and a focus on not the quantity of the investment and the job creation, but the quality therein. And that implies a focus on the diversifying our economy. There's a story, there's a layer, multiple layers to every single success and noteworthy accomplishment in this community. You go to the downtown redevelopment in Pascagoula. That is in no small part to Chevron's investment and commitment to this community. Man, we could have a whole conversation on corporate engagement in this community, be it Ingalls, Rolls-Royce, or Chevron, and it far and away transcends what we think about in terms of the usual philanthropic work, okay? It's not out of some sense of philosophical altruism, okay? It is a genuine corporate engagement in a way that these companies and these corporations have an interest in the communities in which they operate. And it is a symbiotic way and philosophy in which we operate. Again, layers to that point of those successes.
Well, it even came up in the conversation with Julian Rankin, the executive director from the Walter Anderson Museum of Art, and the work that he's done to connect sort of the industrial, base of the city to artists and to make it mean something and to create this special, very special sense of place from the efforts that they're doing. The community outreach is happening there. I don't care who I talk to. It could be a business leader there. It could be someone involved in the chamber or someone like Julian or someone like you. All these dots connect. There's an alignment around the creative class and the new economy and the involvement from companies. I mean, it's really an evolving story. And it goes to the point that I say on Coast Vue all the time, that it takes a lot of work. A lot of cylinders have to hit for you to be competitive in today's market. I mean, that is for sure, isn't it?
There's no question about it. And I'm picking out words and phrases that you're using. The evolution part of it is critical. We're not standing still. And again, I can create that dissertation as to all the ways in which we set ourselves apart from other communities, and admittedly from the competition. On the one hand, we're biased. On the other hand, we're always willing to share that blueprint. To the evolution part of it, I've got a responsibility. My organization has to look differently tomorrow than it does today. What's the old sort of simplistic truism? Innovate or evaporate, okay?
Right.
The challenges are going to be different tomorrow. But again, through our public-private partnerships, look, in my world, metaphorically and literally, I operate in a room where the president of the shipyard and the refinery manager sits next to the president of the board of supervisors and our mayors and our banking community. So we have that wherewithal, and again, I use that term again, discipline to prepare for it and to constantly evolve. And let us not be confused. We ought not put too fine, or we cannot put too fine a point on this, Ricky. It is a competition. That competition, as I say, be right down the road, it might be across the state line, or it might be a world away. I and those around me wake up every day with the challenge to compete with the whole world for the better interest of our community. And like it or not, we ought not lose focus on that. So aligning our resources in a way that we can compete more effectively it has been central to our success.
Hey, listen, in the short time we have left, you got any big announcements about to come?
Shoot, always. We do one every other Tuesday at 9:00. No, none that we can necessarily speak of now, but man, I'd like to come back on at some point and spend our time maybe to sort of track back through the sequence of these announcements that we've had in the last 24 months in a way that they speak again to diversity, alignment of resources and interest, because there's a story in that. And the other thing I'd like to mention to you as we get off the phone, you got me again. You got me thinking again. And just, Kyle, how much time do we have on the show now? 2 more minutes at least? 1 minute. 1 minute left. Ricky, you get me, these things are complicated, but at the end of the day, we're always trying to distill them down and distill them down to sort of simple principles. And I want to share something with you. You mentioned Jerry St. Pé earlier. What I'm going to share with you now is not just a leadership principle, it's a community principle. Years ago, Jerry said to me, he said, when I was the president of the yard, there wasn't a day that went by that I wasn't overwhelmed. And I thought about that, and I said, geez, Jerry, overwhelmed? You were the president of Ingalls Shipbuilding. Why are you admitting, good grief, that you were overwhelmed? And he said this to me, and I wrote this down, and I keep this in the top drawer of my desk. He looked at me and said, oh, on the contrary. He said, admitting to being overwhelmed is the essence of leadership. Being overwhelmed is a true blessing. It reminds us of the reality of interdependency, the need to need others, to rely on others, to partner with others, and the recognition that we are not alone in facing the challenges that so often seem to overwhelm us. That is as much a personal principle as it is a community principle for success.
Wow, that is so true, and you guys are living by it. You're really a best practice that needs to be replicated. We need to see that same kind of alignment across coastal Mississippi. George Freeland from the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation, thanks for spending some time with me today, buddy.
It's always good to be here. Take care.
You bet. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll see you after this break.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar. in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard, and
Wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute.
Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show
on Super Talk Mississippi.
Super Talk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on Super Talk Mississippi.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota and AGJ Systems and Networks on Super Talk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. I really enjoyed that conversation with George Freeland. We could probably have spent 2 shows talking about what's up at the Jackson County Economic Development Foundation. And what he shared from Jerry St. Pé at the end was really powerful, actually. It goes back to a point that I made last week, and I'll come back to that in a second. But what he essentially said is that being overwhelmed is a good thing. And as a former CEO for 15, 16 years of my career, I know what it feels like to be overwhelmed, but the point that Jerry made to George, and he lives this example every day, is that when you're overwhelmed, it reminds you why you need other people and why you must have a strong team, and it takes a team of people to be able to accomplish things. And the point that I made last week is simply the point about people need to trust their gut. Too often we overthink things, and when we overthink, there's a human nature in us that wants to avoid risk. So if we think about it too much, we're going to tend to pick the safer route. And the safer route's not always the best route for your own development, for your business, for whatever it is you're involved in. Oftentimes you need to trust your gut, and you need to do the things that are uncomfortable. You need to do the things that make you feel overwhelmed. I picked things throughout my career that would make me incredibly uncomfortable. And it's in those moments, that's when you learn the most. And I mentioned that someone called me a human sponge once, but I still am a human sponge. I'm 64 years old now, enjoying doing Coast Vue in my retired life. And I'm still a human sponge. I love meeting and talking to people and changing my point of view about things and growing as a person. It makes a big difference. And you know what? Our next guest, Erin Rosetti, who has a really important job in communications at Memorial Hospital, is a great example. She's a One Coast winner. She's got a great story. But, we're going to both, if I say we both, I would say the listeners and I think you'll agree when we get done talking to Erin that she has a lot to share. But anyway, let me without any further ado, let me say good morning to you, Erin. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ricky. Thanks for having me.
Well, you mentioned to me off the air that you got sleep last night. So tell me about your family.
Yeah, so I have a son, newborn, well, not newborn stage anymore. We're in the infancy stage, but he's 8 months old in a couple weeks. So it's been a learning curve that I could have never anticipated. I think being a parent is the most humbling thing ever. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of long nights, but last night was a good one.
Well, you know what? My wife Ann and I often talked about this. We had 3 kids and now we have 4 grandkids. But the thing that we said to each other is that God does something to us when we have kids and that is that it wipes away our memory of life before kids. So, because if we were to remember what that was like, we might want it more. So we have it, it wipes out. And then what it does is it shifts your entire focus in your life to your kids. That's all that really matters now. And it's a wonderful transition in life at the end of the day, though, isn't it?
It is. I think how quickly your priorities shift without you even having to think. I mean, it is a very subconscious shift, and it's very meaningful, right? Because you realize what's most important.
So, okay, we're going to get into the details of what you do in a second, but just give me the headline on what your position is there at Memorial.
Sure. So I'm the communications manager, meaning I manage strategy and implementation of our internal and external communications strategies across the board. So we have a massive health system, as you know, for our regional base, and I'm here for issues management, crises, of course, social media management strategy, helping with media relations. So I do quite a bit in my role, but it's great because I get to touch every aspect of the system.
So what I love to talk to people like you who at a very young age actually had the opportunity to go other places, and this opportunity to come here and make your mark. But you went to LSU, but tell me before that, where did you grow up and why LSU, and kind of give me the early days of Erin.
Sure. So I'm from the area. I'm from St. Martin, born and raised, went to high school at St. Martin. And I've always loved living here. I've always loved the fact that we have access to so many incredible things, and it's not very costly. However, I knew I wanted to go see other things whenever I graduated high school, and I chose LSU as a very last minute choice. People would be shocked to hear that today because I am very much a Tiger fan, true and true. But my first choice was University of Alabama for public relations. They have a really incredible school of public relations there. And I didn't make it there because it just didn't feel like home. So truly, ninth inning, final hour, I choose to go to LSU because it just felt like it was my place, right? I felt like people really cared for me there. And I had only spent a little bit of time on the campus, but everyone welcomed me so quickly. It was only 2.5 hours away from here, so that was a benefit as well. I love being near family. So there were many positives for my experience at LSU, and I would not trade it for the world because I learned so much about myself. It's a massive campus, I think 35,000 students now. So you're interacting with a lot of people from different backgrounds on a daily basis. And I'm so glad that I chose that as my education.
So you got a degree in mass communications, and you went on to get an MBA from LSU Shreveport. But did you know you wanted to get into something communication, or you just weren't sure? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think growing up, I was always really involved in a lot of different attributes. So leadership came pretty naturally. I was, voluntold for several leadership opportunities as I was in high school. And then I started to realize that I loved to establish synergies where they didn't exist. So I loved connecting people. I loved people's stories. So what makes you unique? What is your background? And I'm a huge history buff. So kind of piecing everything together was part of my DNA as well. And public relations just seemed to fit, right? You're really synthesizing a lot of information. You're really attuned to your audiences. You're establishing synergies where they don't exist. That's a huge part of our role. And it was a natural fit for me. And the first person that recommended this as a field was my mom. She literally printed out, back in the day, whenever you printed things out from the internet because you didn't have access to it everywhere you were. And she handed me, the sheet that said, what is public relations? What are your main responsibilities and duties? And as soon as I read that, I said, oh wow, I didn't realize there was a field for this. I didn't realize that my skill sets could be attributed to a specific industry. So from there, the rest is history. I've never veered, never changed my major. I've always worked in PR communications.
Hey, was Jerry Seppos there when you were there?
He was my dean.
Yeah, so Jerry Seppos and he was the vice president of news at Knight Ridder. And of course, Knight Ridder at one point owned the Sun Herald. So we worked very closely together when he was, it's just a small world. I often say about the small world that we live in, incidentally, that it's always amazing to me that people burn any bridges, because what goes around comes around. It's a very small world. And while there could be tension, in one situation, what I try to do is switch to the next situation and find peace, because ultimately you never know when your paths will cross again. But Jerry, terrific leader. What an incredible newsman he is. And I know that he's enjoying retirement. So anyway, so you get out of LSU and you had opportunities to work in Baton Rouge, even Chicago. Tell me about, the path that you took after school.
Yeah, so I was forced, again, voluntold. And, I think the theme of this is that you second guess yourself often. You don't know. It's almost that imposter syndrome. Am I able to do what I think I can do? And other people have a lot of confidence in me. Why don't I have that confidence in myself? And so I think, whenever I was a senior in college, I kept contemplating, okay, what is my next step? My professor at the time for my capstone class, who I adore and I'm still really close to today, she recommended that I apply for this internship opportunity through Edelman Public Relations, which is one of the largest PR firms in the world. And I was like, I'll never get this. There's no way, but I'll go ahead. Let me submit my portfolio. I think I had a week to do it. I got my recommendation letters. So I submitted and I became the inaugural Ruth Edelman PR SSA award winner. And that meant that I could choose any domestic office for Edelman PR here in the United States. And my first choice was Austin, Texas. They didn't have any internship availability at that point. Second choice was New York. And then third was Chicago. New York didn't feel, again, like home to me. Chicago felt a little more manageable because it is a city that is 900 miles away, yes, in a very different locale. But it just seemed a little more my comfort zone. So that's the opposite I chose. And I got to work with some of the best in the industry, really established a solid foundation of the skills that I would need throughout my career there. Really happy for that opportunity, of course. But after about a year in Chicago, I realized that wasn't for me. Between the climate, the environment of corporate communications, where I didn't feel like I was making much of an impact. There were many things that just led me to come back here. After I saw the development 10 years after Katrina, the amount of confidence that was being built around this area, that really caught my attention. And I wanted to leverage the skill sets that I had learned through college and through that experience at Edelman and make a positive impact on this area.
So what we're going to do when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Erin Rosetti. She leads the communications efforts at Memorial Hospital. We're going to come back to that imposter syndrome for a second, because that's an important point that you made. And I had a guest last week say the same thing, and it goes to this point of being uncomfortable. And I want to zero in on that and then talk a little bit more about what you do these days, a little bit more deeply. We'll see you after this break.
You can also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Del Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play.
Hey, guess what? Bob is back, now at 106.3, playing the 80s, 90s, and whatever.
I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Check us out, the new Bob 106.3.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Mathews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. We're having a conversation with Erin Rosetti, who's the communications manager at Memorial in Gulfport. And one of the things that that we were talking about before we went to break, you were talking about Chicago seemed like a good fit. And you know what? The first time I went to Chicago, there's something about Midwest sensibility that I really liked it. I hated the weather. Mm-hmm. I spent coming in and out of there a lot during my career, but you represented what our goal is, that as young people leave here, and there's a lot of brain drain, we're losing too many young people who are going off to further their careers. We hope that we will always create sort of this compelling case for action to bring them back home. So you're an example of a success story. We were able to get you to come back home because of what this community meant to you. One of the things you mentioned, though, you talked about the imposter syndrome. And I had a great conversation with a young man last week, and his name is Caleb Olku, and he owns Olku Logistics. He was also a One Coast winner, I might add. But he talked about this feeling of being uncomfortable and matching up. But anyone who's really aspiring to do great things in your life, you have to be really honest about what you don't know. But describe how that imposter syndrome applied to you.
So, I think in any instance, if someone approaches you and says, "I think you would be great for this," or "You should consider this," there's always that gut check. Why me? Do I really evoke this, this feeling, or, this idea that I can accomplish this, or I can take on all of this responsibility? And pretty much for every request that I've received or accolade or whatever, I always think, really, me? And that's hard. That's a hard thing to get your hands around. And I think it's so common, but people rarely talk about it. You see the accomplishment at the end of the day, or you see the promotion, or you see the added responsibilities, but you don't see that someone is struggling with a thought of that in the beginning. And if we can be a little more open about it, it's less taboo. That's for sure. It is very powerful. And I can't agree more. I mean, people have a tendency to put the facade up and sort of live the position where what's really going on inside is, holy mackerel, can I do this? Can I learn what's really going to be required? And
if you're really true to yourself, every single person who aspires to that next step in life, and certainly it was true for me as well, that there's so much to learn. And if you're critical, if you're critical of yourself, which you have to be successful, because that's the way you overcome, maybe your shortcomings along the way. But it's a really important lesson. I think it's great when people like you sort of admit it, that this is kind of part of the process. So Erin, let's shift gears a second. Tell me, man, you got 100 physician clinics there, over 5,000 team members. This is a large organization. Tell me more about Memorial.
Yeah, so this is in January, I started this position. So of course I had a background of what Memorial was, what it stood for as a patient, but I wasn't quite sure what to expect while working in healthcare, especially for such a large system in our area. And I will say that the environment here is so welcoming. People really want to help you. They want to see you succeed. They want to give you the tools and resources you need to thrive. And for me, again, huge learning curve. I had never worked in healthcare, PR. So it's been quite a bit of an adjustment, and learning the new language, learning the jargon, learning the system itself has been very challenging because it is so dynamic, especially during a global health crisis, right? But at the end of the day, what we do here is we try to inform and educate and really continue the wellness of our community and help impact that as much as we can. That's our overall goal, especially with COVID. Education was key, making sure misinformation was rampant. So that was our role here.
Misinformation was rampant, and I talked about it all the time on this show. And I've had Kent Nico, your CEO, on the show. He's a good friend, and Dr. Nicholas Conger, one of the infectious disease doctors there. He has been so incredibly generous with his time. And literally, as I mentioned off the air, I've lost count on how many times he's been on the show. But he's such a practical minded guy. He's able to sort of cut through the junk in a way that's so practical. And he cares deeply, and he just wanted to get the message out. We're lucky to have people like him, but you've got a lot of people like him, don't you?
Yes, we do. And our environment here, our culture is that we are a team and we succeed whenever we lift each other up. And so we certainly try to live that value out every single day, not just in marketing, but throughout the entire system. So it's really fun to be part of that type of team.
You love to travel. You love the water. When you were in Chicago, was the water the thing that wanted to bring you back?
Oh, I think it was the fact that I could enjoy what we naturally have here without having to, lose an arm for it because it's so expensive to live in a big city. Just to enjoy something, it's really tough if you're only, working to survive. And that's what I felt like I was doing. And whenever we came back here, I was working, of course, for a few years, my husband and I, and we decided, let's just buy a boat because we can do it. We have the expendable income. We have that discretionary income. We can do it. We can enjoy our islands. We can enjoy the rivers, the bays, the bayous, and go fishing whenever we want to. And that is a luxury that a lot of people my age don't have elsewhere, because there isn't that ability to do it, and I think that's a blessing that we have in this area. Again, low cost of living, high quality of life. You can drive anywhere you need to be pretty quickly if you want that really big metro feel. But here we've got everything that we need.
I should have planned an hour conversation, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to come back again in the relative near future and continue our conversation, because you have such a fire, such an energy that you emanate, and it's very infectious. And I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to spend some time with me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This has been Erin Rosetti, the communications manager at Memorial Hospital in Gulfport. And she's just a terrific leader, and we'll circle back with her soon and continue our conversation. Anyway, have a great day, Erin, and you have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.